Nithyanandam. Let's start with a Sadguru Vandanam. We'll start this segment with a Sadguru Vandanam. Please sit straight with your head, neck and spine in a straight line. Nithyanandam Paramashivoham Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Jagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimanamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigurahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Yes, Nithyanandam everyone. And my name is Ma Nithya Atmadyananda. I am KAILASA's head to the UK. So I see that there are many of you on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course in the Paramashivoham room as well. A very warm welcome to all of you. I trust you're enjoying all of the sessions so far. Today we have more of the KAILASA's representatives that have participated and are still participating at the United Nations in Geneva in Switzerland. So we have Her Excellency Ma Nithya Sakalananda, who is KAILASA's ambassador to Canada. We have Her Excellency Ma Nithya Bhakti Vasyananda, who is KAILASA's ambassador to Mexico. And Her Excellency Ma Nithya Yogananda Rupini, who is KAILASA's ambassador to Switzerland. I am indeed feeling extremely honored and really excited to be back again today to share more about the experiences we all had this past week. You know, it's an historical moment. A lot has gone on. Because yesterday you'd all heard that I shared about my experiences in the 48 hours prior to the event at the United Nations, and my time that I had there, my journey, my experiences there while I was there at the events. Now I'd like to share a little bit more. I'm going to expand the time frame out a little bit more. And I'd say maybe to a few months before the United Nations trip in Geneva. I had the opportunity to be blessed and be trained here locally in the United Kingdom before I said yes to the Geneva trip. I said many yeses before that as well. And that's why I understood that saying yes first and thinking about how and what not afterwards makes better sense. So I had the opportunity of connecting with many esteemed leaders already here in the UK and across Europe, mayors, members of parliament, and other dignitaries, reaching out to them. I had also the opportunity of being at the House of Commons, House of Lords during the Diwali celebrations, building ties for diplomatic relations works, working with the United States of KAILASA, building diplomatic relationships with other leaders in United Kingdom and across Europe. So the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's foresight of being able to see well ahead of time means that I started having quite a lot of ground preparation before the trip. So I would say that in the time, the build-up, there is much of me that has felt like I am smaller than, the lower identity. And the training has been to step into grander leadership. Just like any other program that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism hosts, the ones that we get to be part of, it will always be a case of, this is the extent of my expansion, and then there comes another level of expansion, and then there's another level of expansion. So somewhere, just where I thought, okay, this is the level of my leadership and this is the level of my expansion, there was even more expansion. And then since that, few months before the Geneva trip, I would say the last week has, quantum leaped me into a different space of leadership. However, before that, I would say the main completion for me that has happened has been, like before the trip, I used to feel very intimidated by people in certain status, certain positions. Like if I were to say that I would have never thought of being at the House of Commons, at the House of Lords. I I've gone past that, driven past that building, but I felt that it's not accessible to me because I am not somebody important that can contribute, that needs to be there or needs to be part of it. That shift has happened, over this period of time before the Geneva trip. This feeling of being intimidated by this invisible hierarchy that I created in my head. I used to feel that if someone holds a title, then I am naturally less than them because I do not have the same knowledge that they have or the same training that they have. This is one major change that has happened for me before the trip. So when I was there in Geneva speaking to many esteemed people, I did not feel intimidated. I did not feel like, oh, I'm smaller than. My identity of myself, the way I see myself was always, higher. And you'll see that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has shared many times, and it has stuck with me, is that whenever the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has been persecuted, his name has been literally dragged through such garbage like space, wanting to set a negative narrative, persecuted again and again, he has said one thing clearly: they are not able to convince me that I am that. Holding that powerful space, I feel like the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has raised me to that space in all of this training that has happened. So when I was there in the buildings of the United Nations, it felt very natural. It felt like, well, you know what, I do belong here. That building, driving past that, the Parliament building many times in the United Kingdom and feeling like, this is not for me. I felt in the United Nations, look, I belong here. Actually, I do belong here. I am part of the United States of KAILASA. I am representing that space of leadership that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism holds for me and for humanity, and I belong. So I felt of course there's always a stretch for new things, but I thought I could comfortably stretch, just a little bit of a nudge from my inner space, and stretch and do something new, connect with the dignitaries and fall into that space of, raise into the space of leadership very easily. And that's just because of the grace of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Being in that empowered space was very easy. All the necessary steps are being taken by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism to bring that very much needed legitimacy for Hindus by being a strong voice for the 2 billion Hindus, the only nation for Hindus on this entire planet, by making that only nation for Hindus a reality, right? To bring that legitimacy, being a strong voice, and bringing us onto an international platform like the United Nations. The excitement in me is still palpable, and I'm even more excited now to be speaking to the ambassadors of KAILASA. Of course, many of us have traveled back, but these 3 ambassadors that we have here today, they are all still there. They can relate back to us what is happening for them. So I'd like to invite Her Excellency Manitya Bhaktivasiyananda first of all to share how her 48 hours happened before the event, how it went for you. Many of us shared yesterday. Would love to hear from you what happened right from the onset, and then of course go on to share more. So please do share what happened for you, and would love to hear from you.
Nithyananda, Her Excellency Ma Vijayapriya had called me late in the evening and said, "Ma, can you come to Geneva?" And I think my mind got blown right then and there. I guarantee you that my jaw just completely dropped, that it hit the ground. Something I really don't know that I would have ever expected to hear on the phone. So, I think the first thing I said was, "Geneva, do you mean like Switzerland?" And she sort of giggled and she said, "Yes, Ma." She said, "Can you come?" I said, "Yes." "Yes, I can come. Of course I can come." She said, "When can you fly? How soon can you fly?" I was like, "Oh my God, that fast?" She said, "Can you come next day?" I said, "Okay," So we hung up the phone and I started looking at flights, and I booked my flight within a few hours of her phone call, and I flew out in a day and a half of the news. So it was very fast. I started packing for that week immediately. I was so excited for this trip, really excited. Uh, I was digesting this as it was happening so fast. I know that by experience, whenever the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism moves on something, it happens instantly. And that's exactly what this was. The immediate call to KAILASA and how to be a part of this mission at the United Nations was just surreal. It was a surreal moment.
Yes, and actually, I was there when we were in conversation, right? You were one of the first persons to be landing. You were talking about where we're gonna stay,
Yes.
and then we making sure that everything that's needed to be packed is packed. And yeah, we landed very, very quickly. Like we said yesterday as well, everyone shared that it was the yes, saying the yes immediately and jumping in, and then organizing the things that need to be organized because.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then but everything works out. It is important to be in the space of possibility, even in that moment, in that present moment, not overthinking anything and just saying, okay, yeah, we'll work it out. We'll book the flight first, and then we'll work the next bits out.
Absolutely.
Yes. Great. And then we also have Her Excellency Manitya Yogananda Rupini here, who has jumped in. She actually, you yourself, you live in Switzerland, and would have been, we say, okay, well, of course, Her Excellency Manitya Bhakti Vasyananda traveled all the way from US of A. She had multiple flights. I would have thought at least 2 flights, and many hours to travel to Switzerland. Yourself, you're there. It wasn't the case of there were no challenges at all. You have a young child. I'm sure there were many things you needed to put into place. So how was it for you, the 48 hours before the events when we got together, and of course the whole journey? How was it for you, Ma Yogananda Rupini?
Yes, Nithyanandam, everyone. So for me, it was an inner travel, actually. Even if it was physically not so far, I live 2.5 hours from Geneva in the Swiss mountains. Still, I had, as you just said, to arrange many things. So the young daughter had to be taken care of. I had some work responsibilities that I had to shift, and so many other things that really had to be organized. And at the same time, I was extremely relaxed, and I knew it would just work out. And I just had this yes. So for me, it started with a call in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. Actually, our Mahant, Atmadayananda, she called me, and I was not so well at that time. So I called her back, and she said, oh, it's something really urgent, something very, very important. I said, okay. And she says that it must be really important. So I spoke to her, and she revealed the invitation to Geneva. And I thought, yes, it's close by. And in our pre-discussion, we talked about you could take it casually and could say, okay, it's just close by, why bother, whatever, right? For me, it was just a clear yes, and I knew I had to go. So I started organizing things, packing, booking, and then pretty much like some hours, it was altogether 2 days later, as you said, the 48 hours, I was there. And we had a lot to organize. So at the same time, everything was really flowing, and it was really this yes. I knew everything would work out. Swamiji would take care. When he organizes it, it will all be fine. And I was really, really relaxed. And actually, I was also surprised that it was such an ease and such a really beautiful flow that everything came together.
Yes, it's the dropping of the unnecessary conversations inside, right? So usually when something spontaneous happens for us, when life presents us with something spontaneous, usually there is a hesitation of, kind of comfortable with everything that I have going right now. So I don't want to do something that's going to take me out of my comfort zone and stretch out and do something different or do something new. And in this way of operating, we miss out on what life is presenting. As the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism says that everything is auspicious. Looking at everything in this light where it's auspicious. So when this is coming up and we say yes, I'm holding on to. I realized that each one of us held on to the yes and dropped what was the unnecessary conversation which we didn't need to engage in. Why it could not happen.
I like to share one more thing. Sorry, ma'am. I like to share one more thing, actually, what happened just some days before, because the wish and the desire to join KAILASA really physically is there since a long time, and I lived in the Adinam, and but to join back was there, and I didn't know how to organize it with the child and the commitments that I had and so on. So I said in the Bhava Samadhi Darshan to Swamiji, and I sent a message into the chat, Swamiji, please make it happen now that I can join KAILASA, I can be, pull me to KAILASA, something like that, into that direction I wrote, and I didn't know how that would happen, and now he brought KAILASA right to Switzerland, so I'm really happy to join it, and yes, and to help manifest whatever we want to manifest here.
Absolutely, and this is when we hang on to what's important. Like you said, my Yogananda Rupani, when you got the opportunity, I remember calling you, and I was hesitant a bit because I was thinking, what do you call it? It's like it's late, and I knew you were not well, so I was a bit hesitant to call you or message you, and as delicately as I could, I was like, no, but I have to, I need to do this, because I cannot not invite my Yogananda Rupani, not extend this, even if it is, at a crazy hour. And your voice had gone at that time, so you had been struggling to speak. So I thought I'll just wait for her to call back when she has a moment. Even in that that time where it wasn't convenient, it wasn't a convenient time, nor was it convenient for your throat at that moment in time. You just said, okay, I'm gonna listen to what is being shared and jump in, say yes, and there you are. What you had asked for, a boon during darshan, simply again we think I said yes to something else, but a bigger boon that I have asked for is being manifested for me, right? So sorry, go ahead, Ma.
Yes. Actually, I would not have imagined how we would do it. But that he brings KAILASA now to Switzerland is just so amazing. And I could see KAILASA since a long time here. But to have it in Geneva, the center of all political happenings, and in such a professional and high-level context, this is just Swamiji, the Supreme Pontiff's way of empowering us, right? Standing up for Hinduism and for KAILASA, and I'm really, really proud to be part of this.
Yes, and being part of KAILASA on many levels. One is working on the ground in a meaningful way, bringing the results which is very much needed for humanity, representing KAILASA, and also being uplifted inside to a space of powerfulness. It is a working from a space of powerfulness inside, being established in KAILASA inside, and then working on manifesting that outside, right? So what you've just shared about the Bhava Samadhi Darshan and the boon that you asked is this seamless, and this is what I mean, this is what I get excited about when I think about the complete sight that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has. It's an expansive sight, the way the way Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has explained before, in a very simple way, is it's like imagine there is a 10 floor building, a building with 10 levels, and we are on the ground level, and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is on the top level, right? So what one can see from the 10th level will be, of course, much more wider, more expansive, right? And when we're on the ground floor, so one of the things was, well, okay, there's a car coming towards you. You need to move out of the way. When we're on the ground floor, we may not be able to see the car, but on the 10th floor, of course, the sight that there's a car coming this way is much more clearer. So the way the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is able to see a wider picture and then guide us now so that we are ahead. We are ahead when it comes to the steps we need to take. Therefore, where we want to reach is reached easily. Right? So, yes, that's amazing, my Yogananda Rupini, for sharing that. That's brought even more excitement to my inner space. Now we have Her Excellency Ma Nitya Sakalananda. Would love to hear from you as well, how your experiences have been.
Yes, Ma, thank you. Thank you so much. It's truly with the grace and blessings of His Divine Holiness, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, that, that I'm here in Switzerland, in Geneva, of all places, how the message came for me, right? The question is, will you go to Switzerland? Immediately I said yes. Immediately. Okay, get ready. Okay, I'm going to Switzerland. Just like that, right? I'm saying yes. I felt so fresh and excited, and really not knowing exactly what was ahead, only knowing that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is giving another opportunity for expansion, right? So it's an expansion for me, and I know it's an expansion on a much larger level for humanity, because any time the Supreme Pontiff does anything, it will always benefit humanity, So it's in that space, and that space of the blessing, only feeling of blessings, I just immediately started planning. I just started planning for the travel, and this time planning for the travel, it just went so smoothly. It went so smoothly. Everything, I have suddenly felt like very well grounded, and while working quickly, I didn't feel rushed, and one thing just happened after the next, so everything just really came together,
Yes. The divine, as I mentioned earlier, the divine feminine, one of the qualities is stability, and that happening amidst complete uncertainty, right? Spontaneous uncertainty, and diving into the unknown, just jumping into the unknown, right? But still having stability, still having clarity. That is the joy of being part of KAILASA and working on the projects. Because normally, of course, when I've been fearful in my life, I can't think when the fear is so high. That this something happens in the brain, and it's like just walk around like a zombie, not being able to think. But here we are doing something completely unknown, going into the unknown with uncertainty, but having stability. That's the beauty of working with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism on the projects and the power of the initiations. He's really making it happen. Thank you, Ma Nitya Sakalananda, for sharing. There's been some comments. Is there something else you'd like to add?
Yeah. See, absolutely, I agree with you 100%. It's the stability from the initiations and the lifestyle. Simply living a lifestyle of a KAILASA Vasi. And, as I'm clearing the calendar, getting ready for this experience, not exactly knowing, right? Just knowing that it is something big for the world, something big, because anything the Supreme Pontiff does, he does in a very rural and beautiful way that benefits all of humanity. And to be part of that is something special. It is something special.
Yes,
So,
indeed. Yes, thank you, Masakala, for sharing, for Manitya Sakalananda for sharing. I have a comment here from Amanda Mihri. And the comment is here, thank you, Ma, for sharing your inner journey in such a detailed manner. Feeling little was the main obstacles to go to Geneva. This time I should have been there to shower my oneness living stories with the world, but my pattern stopped me to do so. Well, it's not too late. It's not too late, Amanda, Mary, to be part of it. You can, of course, still be part of it because, we have the opportunity for each and every one of you to sign up, be part of this amazing happening. You can still do it. There'll be many, many more opportunities coming up, and you can connect up now. There is a link that should be projected to all of you. It is, if it's not projected yet, I will read it out for yourselves. It is sksjp.org/contribute. And Amanda, you can sign up immediately, be part of it. And you can contribute locally as well. If there isn't an opportunity immediately to go to Geneva, of course, you can even sign up and be part of the local work that is happening for diplomatic relations. And the bigger the teamly, the better, right? So we're working on, as example, sister city agreements, training, proclamations, etc. We're working with VIPs, connecting with VIPs. So you can sign up. There is an option for you to be contributing with your time, your treasure, your talent, all of this immediately. You can easily make a payment as well towards the building of the United States of KAILASA. We'll go over exactly how these contributions are expended throughout various projects. We'll go through that as well with all of you. So, Amanda, you can immediately sign up. The chance is still there. Okay, and that's for everyone that's watching on YouTube, that's there on Facebook, and in the Paramashivoham sessions as well. If you have not yet signed up, please do. It's, the breathing that I have done in my general life before the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the breathing is different even in this last week. The expansion, I feel like more cells are taking in more prana, really. There's more happening, more aliveness happening inside of me just by being part of this and saying yes. It's not because I know it all. It's not because I know it all that I'm here. It's knowing that I don't know, knowing that I am taken care of by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and everybody that's around me at this moment in time, supporting and working for my success as well as the success of the United States of KAILASA and all the 2 billion Hindus that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is standing for. Now, I know I have had personal breakthroughs in this entire journey. There are so many I could be talking about, but because the last week is so fresh in my inner space, I'd like to invite each of the ambassadors to also share the personal breakthroughs that they've had. Now, I moved from impossibility to possibility. Okay, this trip has done. I genuinely, in all my conversations, my line at the moment is, I don't have time to talk about impossibility. You don't have time. I don't want to make time to talk about it. That's what's happened in the last week for me. And before, I would have thought in a very blind spotted way, entertaining that space. Now it's a case of, let's make it happen. Let's find a way to make it happen. So, Manitya Bhaktivasyananda, what would you say are your personal breakthroughs that have happened for you in this past 1.5 weeks?
Yes, well, I have experienced a huge breakthrough since the moment I said yes to that call to come here to Geneva. What was set in motion long back, it seemed like it was coming into fruition. A little background about this would be that I had been working remotely with Ma Priya for about the last 1 year or so from where I was. So diligently, I had been learning and working in the diplomatic relations. All the while, though, I was desiring to be physically living again in KAILASA ecosystem. And I had become very comfortable speaking on the phone with the politicians during that training. And this is actually something that I had never pictured to be in politics, especially to this level and this degree. But this preparation, this training I had done remotely from where I was, and it was a very powerful foresight of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the way this has all come into place. I've been prepared and I had been blessed to go live and be a part of the DC team, but that was yet to happen. So I'm back into the present. A few days before we had arrived here in Geneva, Ma Priya had asked if I could remain, if I could stay back longer. And of course, this took no time for me to answer yes. It's a yes, of course, but not for 1 week or two, but to become an Adinavasi, a permanent citizen of KAILASA, and to be a KAILASA Adinavasi. I went and told Ma Priya, I want to stay here wherever the work is. I want to stay there. And I love this UN work, the diplomatic relations. Who knew? I was hooked, like hooked. So a few minutes later, I was sending an email to the KAILASA legal department requesting the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's blessings to become an Adinavasi. And it just it felt so surreal what was happening. It was a literal jump and a pull in every direction. So many things were coming into place. It was overwhelming a little bit. But this is something that I had wanted for like over 5 years. I had been living for months here and there, sometimes a few months in the ecosystem, a KAILASA ecosystem in India. Sometimes I spent a few years, different parts of my training. But I wanted this to become permanent, and I was ready for that to become permanent. And that night was just a powerful transition in my inner space. It's difficult to actually put into words. So the next day I woke up and I had a response to my email. And by that evening, I was on a private interview in Zoom to become a KAILASA Adinavasi. And it was all happening so fast. One really magical moment and thing that happened after I hung up the phone with the call with the interview with KAILASA. I had logged back into the program, into the Paramashivoham level 3 program, and there is a live satsang of Swamiji, and he's talking about something. He suddenly starts talking about living in KAILASA. and,
Wow.
and I had just hung up this call, and then he's sitting and he opens his arms up like this and he says, "Welcome to KAILASA."
Wow.
And it was as if there was literally no screen that I was looking at. It was completely the space, completely just the space of it. It was really very magical. It was just beyond the time, and it was the space. It was the space of KAILASA now, and I just had tears of joy roll down my face. Like, did that just happen?
So seamlessly. Wow. So seamlessly. Well, I'm hearing from what Yogananda Rupini has shared as well, that that her desire is to be part of the ecosystem, actively be part of the ecosystem, and the same for yourself. And that just happened so easily with, its time and all the obstacles that need to be removed, the complete completion that needs to happen for the shift, for the jump to happen has just happened for both of you, and and seamlessly you're seeing these wonderful, like, welcome to Kailasa, and with arms, these are not coincidences, right? These are not coincidences at all. And I can hear it. I can hear the joy you're experiencing. I can feel it. And also my Yogananda Rupini, to be part of that ecosystem. Now, it's our being longs to be part of this ecosystem. It has been longing to be part of this ecosystem where, there are many promises made by many leaders all across the world. Many promises. And I have heard many promises of changes happening and lasting changes happening, etc. Right? It sounds very convincing, but then on the ground, I've not seen that happen as quickly as it's promised. Example, right? But here, with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism within this ecosystem, I can see real palpable shifts happening. Really tangible results happening. It's not. Yeah, Bhakti Vasya, you see, we've it's not a false, fake, empty promise. It's real, and like yesterday I had shared that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism makes it happen. And that's why I feel repeating and saying this again, that it's the solution based lifestyle that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is reviving. The Hindu lifestyle is solution based, naturally solution based. That's why so many contributions that are already made by our rishis are still enriching the world, and they will continue to enrich the world. So listening to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is imperative. Bringing the entire ethos of the United States of Kailasa, what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism stands for, and how that is going to help humanity, bringing that to the world leaders, and us having the opportunity to be the ones that gets to knock on their doors it's of course is addictive. Of course, Ma Bhakti Vasya, you're like, yeah, I want this, right? Because from this space of powerfulness, we are speaking to people that are in the status of power, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Wonderful. So now we have my Yogananda Rupini as well. Would love to hear from you, your personal breakthrough that you've had and the journey that has happened thus far for you.
Yes, Ma. So the first event of the meetings that happened in the United Nations had the title Half Day General Discussion on the Equal and Inclusive Representation of Women in Decision-Making Systems. And I felt actually, as we had arrived at the United Nations, it's a very protected space. There's a lot of security. You have to go through certain steps of approval and all of this. And being there somehow felt so normal. It felt so, as the life purpose would reveal itself, kind of. And so many things that had led to this moment felt really as a preparation for this, what is happening right now. And walking into the events hall, it felt so normal. Even it was a very professional surrounding and ground that we were stepping into. We were very visible. So there were 17 representatives, delegates, and ambassadors of KAILASA that were filling out 2 rows of these seats in the hall and really being visible for many there. And even before the event started, we were approached about how beautiful everyone looks like, and like how we are presenting ourselves was so empowering and with so much grace. I would never have thought that I would step into such a very professional political field with such a grace, and the jewelry, the sari, the traditional attire. to represent Kailasa in such a surrounding, it is just a joy. It's really just a joy. And I'm so proud of, as I said, being part of this. And it feels like the life purpose is really step by step, more and more revealing itself.
Yes, absolutely. It fits, right? The inner identity of us experiencing ourselves as Hindu, so suppressed and subjugated over so many years, not necessarily, I mean, not even having the right knowledge system to be able to express ourselves fully, being in the space of confusion, chaos, etc., and then spending the time with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism with the clarity that he brings, giving a platform and getting the identity aligned to, the purpose, as you mentioned, right? It all aligns. When that aligns, there is this feeling of fit. It fits, it feels natural, and it feels like, well, I'm meant to be here. Actually, I'm meant to be here. There isn't oh, I don't think I belong, it's not for me, it's too much, and I'm too small. This conversation is out of the window. The clarity is there, complete, why I'm here, the context is there, and of course, owning of who I am, right? Being proud. Again, the story of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism when he attended school, where he wore all of his bhasma and attended school, right? That story that Bhagwan shares, that Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism shares, it's that owning who I am, right? My being experiences something empowered. I don't need to be apologetic about that. I'm owning it. And on this platform, of course, on the platform of United Nations, it's all about peace. It's all about, of course, no discrimination happening. There's none of this happening. So on that platform there, I get to be who I want to be on an international level, right? So wearing the entire traditional attire and being there felt even more empowering, more of a like the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism says, life is a celebration, and that was apparent in the way we held ourselves, the way we were being noticed. People were coming and speaking to us, right? They were outside, and we became very, very memorable. And we also have Manitya, thank you so much, my Yogananda Rupini. We have also Manitya Sakalananda, who is here to share. Yes, would you like to share your, yes.
Yes. So personal breakthroughs, right? Feminine empowerment. How in Hinduism, females naturally take on leadership roles in the community, yes? So personally, just being present in the United Nations, the human rights, this half-day general discussion on the equal and inclusive representation of women in decision-making systems, it was just a huge breakthrough for me, just being present there, getting there, being there. Never would I have imagined myself in the diplomatic setting of the United Nations. So, when I grew up, I wasn't raised as a leader. Maybe the responsible one, right? But the leaders it wasn't a role that I played. And echoing, your personal experience also, that inner image was lower than a leader, leader quality. However, and also I have to say that I have, throughout my life, avoided politics. Some experience I had at a young age made me to avoid the politics in life, right? So certainly I did not see myself being involved in the United Nations. However, just this whole journey, just even coming here, being present, a beautiful completion has happened in me. See, just the journey, right? Standing with KAILASA and representing 2 billion Hindus worldwide, it most literally certainly raised my confidence and the possibilities that I have. Even as I'm coming, and I'm learning about the experience was to happen, I just know with certainty that it just felt, how to say, I felt strong about it. I didn't feel any weakness about it. And it's really because, and I have so much gratitude for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for creating an enlightened ecosystem where literally simply living the enlightened the enlightened lifestyle of daily yoga, understanding and experiencing the deeper spiritual truths, the powerful cognitions, life solutions of a Kailasavasi. I felt equipped and stable. Really, the Yoga Pada, Charya Pada, Jnana Pada, Kriya Pada, all these things, contribute to the lifestyle that we live. And just simply living the lifestyle, again and again, different experiences are happening for us to expand. So, and also having experienced so many programs with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, I know that he wants the best. He gives the best for all people for their transformation. So he, with so much of care and compassion and safe environments for people to evolve. This is a lifestyle, a Kailasavasi, and
Yes,
I can say
absolutely. I agree. Yes, go ahead, please.
yeah. So the completion happened as I'm standing there. There's 17 of us as we walk in this grand arena of the United Nations. Everything was so organized, and so everybody is there for peace. And I know we'll talk more about that later. But for me, standing and representing women empowerment and 2 billion Hindus, it was very powerful, and I felt powerful. I didn't have any lack, and it was a wonderful completion, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to stand with Kailasa.
Yes, I think this seems to be a common thread here in terms of politics and leadership, and being shy to be part of it. When I say shy, well, literally saying no, I'm not. I don't need to. I know I have said, well, that's not for me, because again, the wrong narrative about politics and all of that is ingrained in me from a long time ago. So I've hesitated and closed the door on, okay, I don't need to be part of it, but it's necessary. It is necessary to know what's happening in the world, to be involved, to understand what are the problems that people are facing, as a collective, on an individual basis, as a collective, what kind of systems are already in place, what's working, what's not working, knowing that, because as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has shared with us about collective integrity, when you're on the ship, we're on this planet Earth, it's a ship. We cannot afford to say, well, the captain knows what he's doing, so I don't need to know this part of the ship at all. Because should anything happen to the captain, well, how are we going to handle that? So understanding the overall, it's important. I cannot just say I am my own individual island, and that's the space of separation, isn't it? When we get into that that way of living, which is, well, I'm gonna think about me, and I don't need to worry about what's gonna what the other people are doing. But we do need to be concerned, because when a tree is being cut somewhere on planet Earth, it is having an adverse effect somewhere else. So everybody being on the same page when it comes to certain collective, this certain collective ethos, I guess I would use that word, lack of a better word, I would say something that needs to be as a common thread for all humanity to understand, and to be on the same page. That collective, that one thing that could bring us together, integrate together, that's exactly what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has as part of the revival of Hinduism, because it has all the cosmic principles which brings everyone to this from the space of oneness. It's all inclusive. So it's not a case of, well, if you're you have to be on this level, only then you can be included. No, it's all inclusive. Doesn't matter what level we are on, what level of understanding, never giving up on anybody, and raising everybody equally with equal love and care and compassion. And so it's important that when we are on this planet Earth, which if you could look at it as a ship, the collective integrity has to happen. I cannot afford to say, well, if you don't know, it doesn't matter. No, the world leaders do need to know about the solutions that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is sharing. They do need to know, because they have blind spots in their solutions, and that's why they're not being implemented as fast as they could, with as effective results as they could, or efficiently even. The United Nations is very organized indeed. However, the speed at which the solutions can come and be implemented, and the world can see it happening. We're on the verge. We were talked about this yesterday, that there is a war happening for the past almost, God knows, I think it's been a year almost, that the war has been going on between Russia and Ukraine, right? And then how is that even possible when there is so much work that's gone into bringing global peace? The idea of global peace and making it happen, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism really truly does have the solution, really, because it's happening in each and every one of us, where amidst a lot of uncertainty, we are experiencing bliss, right? So when it's happening for us, it is possible for everybody as well. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, that are on Facebook, that are in Mahaparamashivoham, if you haven't jumped in and said yes to taking care of this ship that we are on, which is planet Earth, being part of the team, being part under the leadership of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, building Kailasa, reviving Hinduism. If you haven't said yes, it's time for you to say yes. Simply fill in the form, okay? Fill in the form and be part of this exciting journey, exciting adventure. I promise you, with all integrity, I'm saying this, I promise you it will not be a disappointment. You will get much more. So, like Ma Nitya Yogananda Rupani said yes to the Geneva trip, but she got her boon answered. Right? The same with Ma Bhakti Vasyananda. She said yes to the Geneva trip, but her long-term desire to be part of Kailasa got answered. It is that seamless. By being part of this, it is that life just starts flowering, and starts, the things that you didn't even ask for fully or didn't even realize, that starts to get integrated, because the presence of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is more than enough for auspiciousness to just keep happening again and again and again. And when we actively say yes, right, then we are willingly allowing auspiciousness to have an effect on us. Because remember, Shiva means simple auspiciousness, a causeless auspiciousness. So just by being in the presence itself, life turns towards auspiciousness. We say willingly yes to that. So the link should be projected to all of you. It's sksjp.org/contribute. Jump in and say yes and be part of this amazing adventure. Now, once again, we had, the reminder that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was the strong voice for the 2 billion Hindus on this wonderful international platform. And we had 17 ambassadors there representing various parts of the globe, right? So, as we've mentioned before, that was exciting and quite powerful. The collective, all of us collectively being there, standing for and representing one nation, right? It was so powerful. I would like to hear from each of you as well. So, Ma Bhakti Vasyananda, how was that experience for you?
Yes, Mom. It was so surreal to walk into the UN conference room and just to absorb and see all of that space. to be standing in this place which shapes the world as it is, and a place like this, you feel the reverence of it all. It's just such a powerful feeling to be there. A place where voices are speaking for the billions past and the present, and those that are shaping the future of tomorrow. To be there and to represent the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and KAILASA, the Hindu diaspora worldwide. It's all inspiring. It's awe-inspiring, and it's also very humbling at the same time. As I sat and listened to each ambassador express their topics as to why they are there, I had felt very humbled to be there and to hear all the different people deliver their passionate 3-minute messages, pleading their cases, so to speak, the people's voices for the collective women's rights. To go and to be in a place where your voice is not only heard, but it affects great changes that shapes the history itself. It's a wow moment, a true wow moment. So, and I'd like to express my gratitude and sincere appreciation to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for taking me on this most beautiful life path.
Yes, indeed. Actually, the way I was watching, because I have a background in design, so I usually look for certain things, the layout of the hall, for instance. And there's so many buildings. Actually, it's the whole space is many buildings and many rooms. So it's quite a busy place in many ways. There's sessions happening on a regular basis. And I noticed that the way the hall is laid out, it doesn't have edges as such. It's got these curves, right? The curves of the emblem, and it brings that space of all inclusiveness. It is welcoming. It is welcoming, and I found that the people that are there in Geneva generally, I found people to be very kind, and the intent with which the place is designed, of course it stands for peace, making global peace happen. It radiates through across, now adding that extra much needed ingredient of the superconscious breakthrough that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism wants to bring. That's the magical fit. That's the magical fit, right? And my being has been very convinced about the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and what I'm here for. Now I can see that my cognition is also, really catching up to the vision and seeing what is it that the United States of KAILASA is representing, and what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has as a vision for humanity, and what will bring the much needed breakthrough. Because either we have a breakthrough, or where are we headed? If we look at the way the decisions are being made and what kind of things are happening, we're heading towards more war, aren't we? I won't, because we all have Vak Shakti, I won't say it out loud, but where are we heading? So it's a perfect fit and urgently needed. So having a large representation there was very powerful indeed. Thank you so much for sharing, Bhakti Vasya. I'd like to hear also from Nitya Yogananda Rupani how it was for you seeing yourselves there with the 16 other representatives.
Yeah, as I started to mention before, it felt in a way relatively normal to enter this place. And what was really special to me was that I had the grace to even travel already with the Supreme Pontiff's Murti on my laps to the event and to the location. So the Supreme Pontiff was traveling to the United Nations. And what was most auspicious was that I even had the grace to carry the Supreme Pontiff's Murti into the United Nations, onto the field, on the ground, into the buildings, through the security, passing all these people that were looking at this murti, even, people approaching me, oh, is this the Buddha? And I answered, yeah, it's pretty similar. It's just, carrying him into the United Nations, into this peacemaking field, and such a professional field in Switzerland where I live. That was just too beautiful, too precious, and I'm really, really grateful having had this opportunity.
Yes, indeed. So even people who don't know about the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism are experiencing the compassion just from the Atmamurti, right? Now, having his physical presence would make a even bigger impact. It's much needed for that space. So what you just said, my Yogananda Rupani, that people had mentioned is this Buddha. Now, of course, people associate Gautama Buddha with compassion and peace, right? So just not even knowing the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, not even being introduced in a formal manner, just by seeing his Atmamurti, they are able to catch the thread of what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is standing for, and the being is catching it. The being is catching it. It doesn't, that's the beauty of what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism stands for and what he's doing, right? So that's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. And the most exciting moment was to see the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's Atmamurti inside the hall, there with all of us, and it really felt like he was there with us physically, right? Each one of us felt it. It was so exciting. Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for doing that and bringing it. It was for me. It was a no brainer. It was a no brainer. Swami, I was nagging Anurag to say, make sure you please bring Swamiji's, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's Atmamurti has to be there. Please bring, please bring. And it was like a no-brainer. Of course, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is coming with us into it. It just I could not think of another option. He's there. So wonderful. Yes, Ma.
Yes, he was leading the way into the United Nations. He was in front, up in front, just passing everything and being present in there.
Yes. So that makes up for even bigger, group representing there the United States of Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, because all 2 billion were there in one way, right? Because the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is the strongest only voice for Hindus. Now we'll hear from Ma Sakala as well, Manitya Sakalananda. How was your experience there, being there with the 17 other representative ambassadors representing the United States of Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism? What was your experience?
Yes, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I tell you, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism truly graced the United Nations on this day. And when I tell you, when you said the Atma, His Divine Holiness Atma Murti on the chair, people were just all eyes, Even one lady rushed over, who is this? What is, asking, who is this? And wanting to meet him. And can I have my picture with him, please? She said this. So everywhere we went, people are just drawn to his compassion, his grace, his all-inclusiveness. Paramashiva is all-inclusive. And it's just a beautiful experience all in all. Everything was so organized. And throughout the day, we listened to many countries giving their reports on how they are, the status of women are in their country. 20 years ago, the reports they would give would be too completely different. So much strife and struggle for women and women empowerment, right? So actually a lot of the countries were reporting on how women are becoming more involved in decision making and leadership roles, and each country had something different. Only out of all of them, 2 countries really were still struggling and having great strife that they reported. And Atmadaya, what you said earlier, Hinduism, Sanatana Hindu Dharma, Kailasa has the solutions. It's solution oriented and it happens very quickly. I just can see sitting in the hall listening to all the reports, and here we are, 17 of us sitting stably, radiating the, Paramashivatva, with all the solutions, all their problems, all the issues they were facing today. The solutions are there. And simply by living this enlightened lifestyle in this ecosystem of the United States of Kailasa, literally, that's all. That's all. The solutions are there because Kailasa is solution oriented, right? So for me, it was like sitting with a pot of gold, like so much gold shining. Here we are, sitting amongst all these countries with the solutions, radiating, standing with by example. And this was the first day of many days of discussion, and just how to become more involved. We did Kailasa submitted a general report, and it was accepted, and it's published. It's being published or already published in the United Nations website. So Kailasa is contributing, but for me, it's like how to further get the message out to these countries and people, and how to make it happen for them also. Because like you said, Atmadaya, it can quickly, the solutions can quickly be felt. The signs of completion, unclutching. These are like household words that are powerful, and support the individuals, each individual as they're supported and healing and stable, and confident. That, it just is a ripple effect through the whole globe. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. It was so well organized, so many people wanting to talk. Each one country had like 3 minutes to speak, and everybody had something to say. So it was quite an amazing day. And
Yes.
there's other thing. A
Yes.
lot of countries did report that women are active in their countries. 23% have leadership roles or have equality, being equal to men. And here in the Constitution of Kailasa, it's written that 33% of the leadership positions are required to be female. And in fact, we have 90% leadership roles are filled by the females. And how they fill these roles is, from the space of powerfulness, the uniqueness of women. There's not there's no competition with men here. It's about being unique and powerful, and from that, space of solution and healing, or leadership. Whereas, the whole idea of equality came from women are less than, and how to raise them be equal, coming from problem space instead of coming from a solution space. So it's a little, difference, but so
Yeah, and actually we were there with the same number representation, because majority were women in the 17, majority were women. And the exact numbers that we were speaking about, the statistics when it comes to women in empowerment within United States of Kailasa, that was represented very clearly in the 17 number that we were there, right? So
yeah.
thank you so much, Rasakala, for sharing. I am going to invite everybody that is on Facebook and YouTube to, and of course in the Paramashivoham sessions, and anyone watching live, if you're watching on any other platforms like Twitter, please do share your comments and your questions if you have any, and also sign up it's never too late to be part of this amazing happening. It's a real happening, real happening. It's not something that is somebody promising to make something happen, and then for your vote, or for anything else, and then afterwards, like, who are you? It's not that kind of relationship here. It really is a real happening. The United States of Kailasa, the revival of Hinduism, the Hindu civilizational way of living, that is happening at this moment in time. Be part of it. You're all warmly welcome to be part of it. There is a link projected for you all. If you can quickly sign up, don't overthink this. As you've heard so many of us already share, say yes and jump in. The rest will be taken care of by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, in the sense of the oneness that happens, the kind of download that happens of powerful cognitions, how to manage responsibly all of the things that need to be managed. All of that will happen. All of that will fall into place, because it's not about being irresponsible. Of course, the principles, the cosmic principles that we live in the United States of Kailasa is integrity, authenticity, responsibility, and enriching. So responsibility is very much part of it. But that doesn't mean it's being in the space of responsibility and being in the space of possibility, because integrity is positivity, authenticity is possibility. So it is all of this married together, all of them working together. So say yes and jump into living these cosmic principles. We don't know how. It's not that I knew how to live integrity. It's not that I haven't made mistakes living integrity and authenticity and responsibility, but I get the right nudges in the right places with the right people and supported in the right way to stand up and be empowered. If you want that lifestyle for yourself, you want to mirror the neurons of an amazing being that has happened on planet Earth for us to all gain, literally gain and stand up in the space of powerfulness, then sign up now at sksjp.org/contribute. There is one thing I would say that in the past 10-12 years, one intelligent thing I've done is be part of Kailasa. There are many times I've questioned my intelligence, but when it comes to the choice of being here, that's when I feel like, okay, well done. You just made a good choice there. Really. So jump in, take action, and start your SJP contributions today. You can do it by offering your time, your treasure, your talent, any which way you can. And you can do it now. You don't, right now. It's not okay when I have extra 1 hour a week, or when I have extra dollars, etc. You can start now. Make that now count. It's important when we make the now count. Now, I wanted to share a little bit more about Hinduism. See, we've spoken a lot about United Nations and how organized they are, and each one of us agrees, right? They're extremely organized. I noticed one thing I noticed initially, had not noticed it. Okay, so initially I had not noticed it, but there was a big clock. There was a big clock, and the way it was like, so you had this podium. The way it was organized is you had this podium where the main panel sat, and above them was this huge clock. It's a massive digital clock that was counting down the 3 minutes. It's like the 3 minutes starts now. The integrity to, of course, they've organized these meetings for many years now, and they've fine-tuned everything. So they've got this massive clock, and if you do not finish in that 3 minutes or the 2 minutes or the 1 minute that you're allocated, right? You don't finish, the chair will actually stop. The clock will stop and you're cut off. You do not have any more microphone. Your voice is gone. You have to go on to the next. Extremely punctual when it comes to, you know, the way they operated. Now you have the one hand, you have the United Nations, very organized, systematically doing everything, and then the other hand, you have Hinduism, which is quite disorganized, right? So Hinduism getting organized is a must, the need of the hour. It's very much a need of the hour. What would you say, Ma Bhaktivasya, about that?
Yes, Ma. I would say it's time to stand up and speak up and be a part of the Kailasa in any which way you are able to actually. There are so many different opportunities that everybody can have a part in one way or a different way. There are so many ways that we can come together and bring our collective voices to be heard and make a difference in what is happening and bring the Hindu voice of Kailasa, of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, to the whole world, because they are hurting for it. That is what I heard through so many of the different initiatives that were spoken, is how much the world is hurting for what Kailasa has to offer. And it is imperative that we do this now, because the time is plain and simply now. There is nothing else that seems to be more important, or that it is more important than bringing this to the world, because the world is hurting and they need the solutions that Kailasa has to offer in every situation, in every dimension. There is a solution through Hinduism, and what Kailasa stands for is these solutions. And there's so many different ways that each one of us can step up and stand up and show the strength that we have, but to use that strength and to bring it to the world through the different missions and different initiatives of the Kailasa.
Absolutely. See, if we see, Ma Bhaktivasya, thank you so much. If we see how in the past week, right? So there wasn't an immense amount of planning that we did. It was very spontaneous. We all came together to make things happen, and it wasn't that we had everything sorted out. We didn't even have groceries, right? So even organizing groceries, it's not just that the administrative part of the work, like getting the booklets and things like that ready, or any other, getting our meeting notes together or organizing ourselves. All of that was there. Even the groceries, because we're in a foreign country, so we don't have things set up. Setting everything up from scratch, right? And coming together from various backgrounds, from various levels of knowledge. We came together because the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has taught us to be organized. Gods live in organized way, right?
Yes.
This is the powerful cognitions that we've been given. So here we are, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, extremely organized, getting many complicated truths from the Vedas and Agamas to us in a digestible, simple manner, in an organized manner, the way they have been made available to us has been systematic, right? I've mentioned this before. It's very organized. It's simplified, organized, and repeated again and again to all of us. So you have the unclutching, then you have the four powers, you have completion, power manifestation, it goes on to beingness of Paramashiva, very organized. And the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has mentioned how Hinduism is disorganized at the moment. And the need of the hour is for everyone to come together. And just imagine when of course, there's been an immense amount of persecution that has happened, which has brought a lot of confusion, the wrong narratives that have been set, the continual persecution, even of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism now. Thank Paramashiva the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism holds a strong will, and the way he holds the space for the revival of Hinduism is immensely unshakable, right? So thank goodness for that, because if it wasn't for that, then all of this persecution that has happened for so many years to Hinduism has made everyone feel like, okay, then I can't, even wearing kumkum is difficult for women who are Hindu. They have hesitancy about that. So much has happened where being disorganized has kind of become a lifestyle, but it's a need of the hour to become organized. So imagine the Hinduism being organized like the United Nations is organized, right? Everybody chipping in, not just thinking, oh, well, that's somebody else's, somebody else, for somebody else to do. If it is not us, then who? If it is not me, then who? Who's going to do it? So that's why it's important that everybody chips in, right? I've actually taken the definition of Hindu from the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. So Hindu was a defining aspect of a person who was keenly intent on destroying evil, not just externally, but breaking bondage of Maya or delusion. Hindu is therefore a quality of person who recognizes the internal spiritual quest for the experience of oneness with Paramashiva and powerfulness as a more tangible journey than what we in the modern day venture to achieve in our material life. Okay, so this is the definition of Hindu, is a being who has the quest, the spiritual quest for the experience of oneness with Paramashiva. And I feel like every single person on planet Earth has that quest. It may be hidden to them, but that quest is there. So when everybody comes together, gets Hinduism organized, then of course getting these solutions implemented, which is the need of the hour. It really, I mean, what we're doing at this moment in time is silly. It's like we have a one button that can be pressed, which can unleash a nuclear weapon, which could destroy so much of life and planet Earth itself. We cannot afford that. We cannot afford that. So we cannot afford to say, well, it's okay if I'm not part of this now. We can't afford to say that, actually. Because when, like we said, the ship, if I do not participate actively to make this shift happen, whether I don't need to worry about the vision, I don't need to worry about the how, because the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has worked it out, right? So I don't need to worry about that. I don't have to sit there and reinvent any of the wheels, because everything is there. Now, saying yes and being part of it, I can't afford to say if I'm not part of it, then I'll still be okay. No, it's not, because when I don't actively participate in the decisions that are being made at a high level, which are going to affect me, whether it comes to the price of the food, the price of the fuel, all of these things, the things that affect us on a day-to-day basis. They do affect us on a day-to-day basis, and long-term as well. It's not just short-term, but long-term. When blind-sighted decisions made from blind spots with errors, then we need to worry. Okay, and we need to start looking into, well, there is solutions to make sure that this doesn't continually happen. Whether it's me as my individual ecosystem, when I know the science of completion, then I cannot afford to keep making more and more errors in my life. The same is with a larger ecosystem as well, because I live with other beings on planet Earth. I cannot afford to see planet Earth destroyed. It's our ship. It's our collective ship. So it's important that we all chip in, everybody. It's everybody's responsibility to ensure that the United States of Kailasa and Kailasa itself becomes a reality, a really functioning reality in our lives and in our time, for us to see it in our time, not, I making errors and coming back to planet Earth and seeing a more messier planet, right? time, treasure, and talent are all resourcefully used in Kailasa. So far,
Yes, absolutely, Ma Atmadaya. Time, treasure, and talent. Kailasa is all inclusive, and sitting in the in the United Nations, hearing so many initiatives have been started, right? But there's still so much to do, so much to do, and life is for living. Life is for living in the now, and the quality of life. That is what is important. And Kailasa raises the quality of life because understand the supreme pontiff of Hinduism, he has talked about life, consciousness. Each individual being is valuable, is so important to all because all inclusive, as you said, collective integrity, right? So living now, it is so important, and we can act now. And the solutions are successful. The solutions come from the space of success, and there's a high success rate. And
absolutely.
it's a beautiful system. This enlightened ecosystem of Kailasa, the United States of Kailasa, this nation is growing. And you see in over 150 countries, Kailasa is there. And
You know
it is
what it feels
growing.
like when you're sharing this? I feel like I'm breathing the air of Kailasa, which is pure. It's
Absolutely.
right. There's like the more I live in this space, the more pure my inner space becomes, and there's less disturbances, less like negligible disturbances. If there are any disturbances, I know how to, very organically take care of them. So the breathing is like fresh air. If you have to go to the mountains and get some fresh air, my inner space, being part of Kailasa, is like breathing fresh, really pure air, right? So everybody is welcome to be part of this wonderful happening right now, which is unfolding right in front of our eyes. It's never too late. Just to give you a little context, the time, treasure, and talent are all resourcefully used in Kailasa. So far, there are $20 billion that have been expended on food security and food assistance. $15 billion have been expended on primary and secondary education, 800 million on COVID relief services, $640.5 million on the collection, conservation, and digitalization of Hindu manuscripts, $2.41 billion on sustainable and organic farming, and finally, but not the least, $15.3 billion on global peace. Okay, so the focus is very much on all of the initiatives that will help humanity at a large. It is not for a selective few, but globally help support everyone to empowerment. So it is time to look beyond our borders, to see ourselves as a whole global family, seeing ourselves as being on this big ship, which is planet Earth. Kailasa's efforts to uniting all the nations is fundamentally to enrich everyone to the highest values. Hinduism says very clearly, ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Non-violence is the ultimate cosmic principle. The natural law of the cosmos functions centered on ahimsa, non-violence, and coexistence, which is exactly what we're doing here. Now, the 17 of us that got together, all coexisted together, all coming from different backgrounds, very quickly adapting to each other. All the efforts of the United Nations is to come together and make peace happen. When everyone comes together collectively, this is possibly this is possible and easily done, especially when we have the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism right there with us, bestowing his grace. It happens. We've seen each of our individual ecosystems managing everything very easily just because of the grace, and we'll find that collectively this is possible. So what the United Nations wants to achieve, it is possible easily, very quickly, and the need of the hour to give listening to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and the vision for the United States of Kailasa. So with that, I'm going to share that all of you that are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and in the Paramashivoham sessions, still, if you have not signed up, it is time. It is time to say yes and jump in. Quickly jump in. Sign up to the link which is being shared with you all. It should have been projected. It is sksjp.org/contribute. Please come and contribute. Come and learn. You don't have to necessarily know everything before you jump. The joy of it is that I don't know and I jump in and I get to learn. See, you can learn from books. You can learn from reading on the internet. There is one dimension to it. The dynamism happens when you're on the ground, on the job. Training is happening and we're learning as we go along, not worrying about what's going to happen next, and having amazing turns that take place, which were like unexpected turns, and suddenly problems that I've been battling with just disappear. Have you had that? Bhaktivasya, Bhaktivasya, Masakala, Yogananda Rupini. Would you like to add anything else?
Yes, Ma, absolutely. It's 100% when you make that decision, absolutely everything just falls into place without having to even give it a thought, actually. It just happens. It's truly a magical space.
And it happens instantly. The moment you decide, it happens. It's already done. The blessing is there. And each and every one of you, each and every one of us can just decide, just declare it now. I am a Kailasavasi. I just want to give my all. Just give everything. And understand, when you just ask a question, the solution just happens. Literally, again, it's like a miracle. Every day there are miracles happening. This is the lifestyle of a Kailasavasi, one who takes up the responsibility to be an SJP hegemon, and contributing the time, talent, treasure. It just happens so sweetly, so sweetly. And life is for living now. And the solutions are happening now. You just ask, just say, chant Mahavakya one time, and the Supreme Pontiff is there for you. The solution is there for you. It's for us to give our listening and action. The call to action is there for you, each and every one of you. If you even feel a little bit moved or a little bit interested, understand you have answered that clarion call.
Yes.
This all-inclusiveness of Paramashiva.
And if there is some hesitation, it is time to do tyaga of that hesitation and allow the being to flower. Here we're really taken care of, really in the lap of there isn't a word that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism says casually. There isn't a word, not a single word. Any word that is given, when the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism says that you're in the lap of the cosmos, really that's the case. And also, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has said that when you're sitting in the program with me, you are sitting with me. When you're volunteering, I am sitting with you. And I love that. Because I feel the presence of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism all the time. I have all sorts of emotions, ups, downs, everything I go through with Swamiji, because I have Bhagwan's Atmamurti right here. I speak, I share. Living with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is completely shifting. Before this session started, just as we conclude, I'd like to share that just before the session started, there's lots of things integrating in me, and the usual, because I've been through exams and whatnot, so that little fear of what if this fails, right? It's what if this fails. So I just sat for a moment, pulled myself together, and I heard the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism say, you do the work, leave the result to me. Of course, we've heard this in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Where Bhagwan Krishna says this. And I felt that. I felt what it means to surrender, not to worry so much about what's going to happen, but you and me, we do the work, we leave the result to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. He's an incarnation, and that's what it meant to surrender. Just surrender. Jump and take that action now. Say yes now. So do sign up, and we look forward to seeing you in further sessions. I want to thank everyone for their listening in YouTube, on Facebook, of course in the Paramashivoham sessions as well. And of course I want to thank all of the ambassadors, Her Excellency Ma Nitya Bhakti Vasyananda, Her Excellency Ma Nitya Yogananda Rupini, and also Her Excellency Ma Nitya Sakalananda. Thank you all for your time, for coming and sharing your experiences, and we look forward to hearing more from you in further sessions. For now, I'd like to invite you all to sit straight with your head, neck and spine in a straight line, and will offer our deepest gratitude to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for making this possible. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Bhagavate Shri Nithyananda Paramashiva Paduka Arpanamastu. Om Nithyanandam. Thank you so much, Nithyanandam.